start our public hearing with a presentation by the Budget Department. After this presentation, we will have an opportunity for residents and for public comments. After that, we'll have an opportunity from commissioners to consider 3 items to exceed the revenue neutral rate for the county, for the Parks and Recreation Department, and for the library taxing districts. We're going to start with a presentation from staff. Then we'll go to public comments. Commissioners will have an opportunity to address the presentation during the action items. So with that, I'm going to turn over the floor for a presentation from Ms. Symes regarding the 2024 proposed budget.
Good evening, Robin Symes with Budget Financial Planning Department. I'd like to start off with talking about how we develop the budget. So when we look to develop the annual budget, we take several things into account. One is our budget principles. They include maintaining a sufficient general fund reserve for unknown and unusual circumstances, fund ongoing operating expenditures with ongoing revenue sources, and estimate revenues using a conservative approach to avoid budget shortfalls. We also use the board's strategic priorities as a guiding factor. The board establishes its priorities for periods of 2 years. The board adopted these priorities for 2023 and 2024 on August 20th of this year. They include working with partners to improve housing options for resident needs, maintaining the infrastructure needed to support our growing community, investing in our workforce, and providing a safe and healthy community through the lens of sustainability and diversity, equity, and inclusion. The community priorities also shape the landscape of the budget. The county achieved a satisfaction rate of 90% and above as a place to live, raise children, and work. The community's top priorities were MedAct, emergency preparedness, parks, libraries, and elections. 2 services that the community thought had the highest opportunity for a return on investment was aging and human services and mental health. With the guiding principles and priorities, the 2024 proposed budget is $1.79 billion. It's comprised of $1.26 billion in expenditures and $528 million in reserves. There are 4,269.88 FTE included in the 2024 proposed budget. That's an increase of 75.64 FTE. However, only 33.5 of those are being funded with taxes. The CIP totals $376.8 million, and the assessed valuation increase was 11.3%. The revenue projections that support the budget expenditures of $1.26 billion are broken down into this chart. The main revenue sources are property taxes at 27.5%. That includes county, parks, and libraries. Charges for services are 23.5%. Sales and other taxes are 14.9%. And then bond proceeds make up the other higher amount of 10.5% for wastewater. Johnson County sales tax is made up of local sales tax, 3 public safety sales taxes, and 1 stormwater sales tax. The county receives 100% of the stormwater sales tax. However, we use it to fund a stormwater management program that the cities and county use. The local sales tax and public safety sales taxes all have sharing formulas with the cities by state statute. Although the county levies 14.5% of sales taxes, we only retain 7.4%. The state receives 100% of their sales tax, and the cities levy 14.4%, but receive 21.5% due to those sharing formulas. The total proposed budget, as I said, was $1.79 billion, with $528 million in reserves. There are expenditures that have dedicated revenue sources, excluding property taxes. These include grant and fee expenditures, wastewater, airport, and other outside funds with dedicated funding sources. There are also transfers between departments that meet our GAAP accounting principles. Park and recreation government funds and library funds have their own taxing district. The county general services expenditure budget of $540 million that's in the blue pie piece there is primarily what the county taxing district property taxes fund. This includes examples such as the sheriff, DA, MedAct, mental health, and public health. So although the total budget is $1.79 billion, you can step down to the $540 million when looking at county tax-funded services. Once you remove reserves, the budget expenditures total $1.26 billion. When looking at the budget by strategic program area, infrastructure, which includes departments such as wastewater, public works, and airport, is 35% of the budget. Public safety is 26.5%, with departments like sheriff, corrections, DA, and emergency services. The remaining 38.7% of the budget includes health and human services, culture and recreation, support services, records and taxation, and debt service. When you look at our reserves, they are $528 million. However, we break this down between general tax-supported funds and other funds. The largest two are the general fund at $220 million and wastewater fund, that's a utility, at $205 million. The $269.6 million of other funds are restricted for those uses, or for other uses. And looking at what's included in the proposed 2024 budget, there are 24 FTE that are added with county property tax. They include 1 FTE for senior Medicare health insurance counseling, 10 FTE for the sheriff's office, 4 FTE for district attorney's office, 7 FTE for MedAct, and 2 FTE for paramedicine. In addition, there were 20 FTE added by other funding sources. They include 1 for wastewater project engineer, 11 for mental health services, 4 for problem-solving beds, 3 for park and recreation, and 1 for the libraries. So you can see the ratio of FTE to population have steadily declined from 2008 to 2016. They've remained relatively stable through 2023. The proposed 2024 capital improvement program totals $376.8 million. 50% of that is for wastewater, including the replacement of the Nelson wastewater treatment facility. Support services shows 24%. However, the majority of that is related to one large project, the new Human Services Building, that will house our mental health and public health departments. Infrastructure and culture and rec equal 10 and 9%. Johnson County collects residents' property taxes associated with their tax bill. However, the county does not retain all of the tax revenue. If you look on your tax bill, the separate taxing entities are shown. This chart shows how taxes are actually distributed. The school districts and the community college receive 55% of the property tax. Cities receive 17.5%, and the county receives 15.4%. Johnson County Parks and Library each receive 2.6% and 2.7%. This chart illustrates only 5 years of the county's mill levy, which shows a 1.711 mill levy reduction from 2020. However, the county's mill levy has actually decreased 2.288 mills from 2017 to the proposed 2024 budget. I do want to point out the 2024 proposed mill levy is 24.319 mills. However, due to pending exemptions, we estimate the mill levy to actually be 24.358, or a quarter mill reduction, once we have the final October valuations. I wanted to show a breakdown by taxing district. Proposed 2024 county mill levy is 17.495 mills. The library is 3.808, and park and recreation is 3.016 mills for the total 24.319. Johnson County's taxing district has the lowest mill levy in the state at 17.772 mills for the 2023 budget. Johnson County is lower by 65% compared to the next closest county when looking at the 5 most populated counties in Kansas. Johnson County's assessed valuation is greater than other counties. However, this chart illustrates that Johnson County has the lowest county tax as a percent of household income at 0.62%. And this is just a graphical representation of the county being the lowest in the state. So just to go over taxes a little bit so you understand where taxes come from and how to calculate them. The average Johnson County home value is $398,000. Assessment rate for your residential property is 11.5%, which calculates to an assessed value of $45,770. The projected mill levy in October is 24.358 mills, which calculates to $1,115 in annual taxes on the average home. This equates to a monthly amount of $92.92. There's a lot of numbers here I want to show. This illustrates property tax impacts on different residential appraised values. There are 3 property values shown: 250,000, 350,000, and 500,000. The annual tax at the 2023 mill levy of 24.608 mils is shown in the second column. You can see that, $707.48. If you increase the original value by the average appraised value of 11% for this year's budget, the residential values increase to 277,500, 388,500, and 555,000. The annual county tax with the increased value is shown in column 4. So when you compare the 2 years, the monthly increase at the proposed quarter mill rollback is $5.82 for 250,000, $8.15 for 350,000, and $11.64 at 500,000. However, if you live in the average Johnson County home and pay $92.92 per month in taxes, this is just a sample of what your taxes provide to you. Some key services include support for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, road and bridge maintenance, services for older adults, parks and trails, libraries, law enforcement, mental health services, crime victim assistance, ambulances, and public health. The revenue neutral rate is required by Kansas legislature. It is the tax rate that generates the same property tax collected the year before, using the current year's total assessed valuation. It does not allow for any new growth. If the county collected $1 more than the prior year, it would not be revenue neutral. The county's proposed mill levy for the county, parks, and library taxing districts exceed the revenue neutral rate, which requires this R&R public hearing tonight and a vote on resolutions to exceed the revenue neutral rate. The county would need to reduce a combined $31.4 million in property taxes to be revenue neutral in all 3 taxing districts. So the Board of County Commissioners have met 10 times prior to this evening to discuss the 2024 budget. Tonight is the public hearing, and we will be reporting out this Thursday, August 24th on the hearing. The BOCC is scheduled to adopt the 2024 budget on Thursday, August 31st. And in addition to all of these meetings, the county held 2 budget open houses to give the residents an opportunity to learn more about the county's budget. They were held on June 22nd here in this building, June 27th at the Northeast offices in Mission. 20 people attended in total, and 11 attendees filled out the questionnaire. Some of the results from the questionnaire included 82% thought they received good value for their property taxes. 100% of the questionnaire participants said they had a better understanding of their property and sales taxes, and 64% of attendees were very satisfied with the quality of the open houses, and 36% were satisfied. I want to thank all the staff who worked on the budget open houses. So this concludes my overview of the 2024 proposed budget. Contact information for the Board of County Commissioners, County Manager's Office, and Budget Financial Planning Department is listed.
Thank you, Ms. Symes. At this time, we'll turn to the resident and public comments. We ask that you limit your remarks tonight to the budget. When you do come to the dais, we ask that you state your name and the city and county in which you reside. Comments will be 3 minutes. There's a clock that will appear to assist you with that time limit. It'll be on each of these TV screens. If you happen to go beyond the 3-minute limit, I'm required to ask that you conclude your comments in fairness to everybody else. As always, with any public comment, we ask that members of the public refrain from remarks that are personally offensive or impertinent, that are profane or slanderous, and please refrain from the use of offensive or indecorous language that insults or demeans any person. If we happen to have that kind of conversation this evening, we'll give you a warning. If it continues, we'll ask that you step away from the dais. Everybody will have an opportunity to speak tonight when they're at the dais. As a courtesy to whoever is at the dais, we ask that you let the comments be at the dais and not necessarily in the crowd. And thank you for your cooperation in allowing this meeting to run smoothly this evening. I'm going to call the names in the order that they were received. And thank you all very much for your cooperation and your patience this evening. So first, I believe we have one virtual public comment that was registered, and that is Sharon Lockhart.
Sharon, please unmute yourself. Sharon, can you unmute yourself? Chair, would you like to come back to this one?
Why don't you let me know if we're able to handle those technical difficulties? Then I'll start with our in-person comments in the meantime. The first one I have is Catherine Andrews.
Thank you. I'm from Shawnee, and I am requesting that the taxes not increase for several reasons. First of all, I learned that $16 million in coronavirus relief fund went into reserves, and so I'm asking why can't that money be used to cover expenses now instead of raising the budget? Next, I learned that the mental health budget has increased by more than 72% since 2022, and the public health budget has increased by more than 55% since 2022. So I think we need to start by asking, why is this? Why do we have a mental and a public health issue crisis? Is it the overuse of pharmaceutical drugs? Is it the economic hardship, which is caused by inflation, which ultimately is caused by raising prices and the budget? The lockdown policies also did not help that and led to a lot of mental health problems. An interesting thing to note are the countries that are taxed the most. In this order, Japan, Denmark, Austria, and Sweden. Then I researched what countries had the highest suicide rates. Japan was number one with 12.2%, followed by Austria at 10.4%, and Sweden right behind Japan with 12.4%. So it appears that there's a definite correlation between taxing and suicide rates. So if taxation is supposed to be good for everybody, why are these countries having so many difficulties? I wanted to comment that the average teacher salary in Johnson County is $41,255. Well, this is an area I know well. I started teaching 30 years ago in San Diego. My salary was $31,000, and that was 30 years ago. So I know for a fact that teacher salaries have not kept up with inflation. I'm not sure about other sectors, but I'm assuming it's the same. So then why should the budget increase so much if salaries are not increasing? And we that live in Johnson County have to pay our taxes, but our salaries are not increasing. So I hope you would consider all that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, I have Stephanie Berlin.
Stephanie Berlin, Olathe, Kansas. This will be year 5 for me to speak about the budget, having used PowerPoint tax equations, tax-based theory, and relative to population growth, and even staying active in politics. I have tried to demonstrate why this is not sustainable or financially healthy, except for top administration here at the county. These efforts have not been successful. Tonight, I'm taking a different approach to relay to you an exchange with a friend about the issue. My friend Sue called after having received her property tax notice and was alarmed at the rate of the increase, and she asked me some questions. First, who can I talk to about this problem? I said, well, it should be your representatives, and many times they will direct you to the appraiser who is appointed, and more than likely you will not get a clear-cut answer. And that is because most people who file for an appeal, whether it's at the county level or at BOTA, which is the state level, 30% of the time there are reductions, which should give anyone with the ability to reason the indication that this is not a clear-cut formula. Subjectivity is included. Sue asked if she didn't get anywhere with the appraiser, is there anyone else? And I said, well, the county attorney, auditor, and manager are all appointed, so probably not. Confused, she asked me, why has the spending increased so dramatically in such a few short years? And I enlightened her about the strategic objectives to help the most vulnerable populations. And she said, oh, we're helping the unborn and the dying? No, that is not their definition of the vulnerable. We are actually focusing on stopping climate from changing. And I had to make sure at that point that Sue was still on the phone. After a deep sigh, she said, okay, it sounds like we have some major problems here. How can we change this and get back on track to what county government actually does and should do? I let her know, luckily, once every 10 years, due to home rule, an appointed commission, which in the past has added nothing to the ballot, that you will be able to get very frustrated again. I could tell Sue was getting really upset at this point, and she said, well, you know what, Stephanie, okay, sound like it's going nowhere. At least I can go to meetings and speak my mind to the public, and the public will be made aware. Oh, Sue. No, 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 that's not happening either. It's a privilege for us to address them. Sue said, so let me get this straight. I can walk into a public library where there is porn and there can be accessed by children and read to children, but the commission won't make grievances public. You got it. Lastly, she said, well, Stephanie, oh, no, I know, all this is bad, but you know what? I received a survey in the mail. That has to be unbiased. To save Sue's sanity, I said, yeah.
Next, I have Joyce Whittier. Joyce Whittier. Joyce Whittier. Okay. Next, I have Debbie Detmer.
Hi, I'm Debbie Detmer, a Shawnee Precinct Committee woman and 3rd Congressional and Kansas GOP delegate. Ronald Reagan said, when a business or an individual spends more money than it makes, it goes bankrupt. When government does it, it sends you the bill. And when government does it for 40 years, the bill comes in 2 ways, higher taxes and inflation. Both Kelly Allenbrand have said that they want to either lower or keep taxes flat. And one of Fast's campaign flyers says she wants tax relief. You can show us now how to stand by those words. We need each one of you to listen to your constituents. These manager projections need to be scrutinized by each one of you, not rubber stamped by you. We do not need you to take our money and spend it as you see fit. We need our money to survive, to pay for food, our homes, electricity, and other utility bills, to care for our children and gas for our cars, the necessities of life. We have already made cutbacks in our spending to stay in our own homes. Why can't you make revenue neutral work? I do not stand here alone. My Shawnee precinct is against tax increases. The choice of how to spend our money needs to be ours. Commissioner Kelly, Allenbrand, and Fast, please stand by your words and stay with revenue neutral. I thank Commissioners O'Hara and Ashcraft for their support of lower taxes for the people. Thank you.
Next, Gayleen Van Horn.
Gayleen Van Horn, Lenexa, and I certainly hope everyone here is from Johnson County. This was advertised as a public hearing. Is this also a public listening hearing? Certainly would like to know that. As you consider what our taxes will be for 2024, it is important for you to understand that as taxes increase, particularly for low and middle income families, we have significantly less dollars to actually purchase items. And as tax increases for businesses, these taxes get passed on to the consumer, renters, whoever may be making purchases. Thus, businesses at all levels have a difficult time surviving, resulting in job losses, and there are many other repercussions. Surviving in Johnson County is becoming more and more difficult. During my working career, I saved and invested in hopes of enjoying my savings during retirement. That is becoming more difficult. However, now, because of increasing taxes and inflation, I must be conscious of exactly how and where I spend my dollars. Between my taxes, homeowners insurance, and medical expenses, I spend about $750 a month. This does not include monthly energy costs or food costs. And when I do attempt to make purchases, I am very aware of where I buy items, whether they are in one of our many special taxing districts that have an added 1% to 2% taxing. My strategic priorities are public safety, fire, and emergency management. I do not want to see a Maui here in Johnson County. My second priority is wastewater, And my third priority is infrastructure. When people have lower taxes, they can spend more money, they are healthier, and they can do many other things. As a reminder, you, our Board of County Commissioners, are spending millions of dollars on a weekly basis. These are not your dollars, but are those of tax-paying residents of Johnson County. Your spending impacts my ability to live comfortably here. Additionally, it is important to remember that as you allocate federal and state dollars, this is not magic money. It is our money as well. It is always easy to spend someone else's money. Thus, I am here today to ask that you budget judiciously, spend our tax dollars wisely, and do not raise our taxes. Again, I ask of you, are you leading this county with your highest degree of integrity? Thank you.
All right. Next, I have Nikki McDonald.
My name is Nikki McDonald, and I'm a 20-year resident of Olathe. My husband and I are small business owners with 2 children in Olathe Public Schools. Many tonight are here seemingly to complain about the taxes they pay, but I am happy to pay my part so that we can continue to live in a safe community that prioritizes safety and quality of life. Johnson County's most recently recorded median household income was $96,059. That amounts to nearly $25,000 more than the national average. Census data from 2020 named Johnson County as the county's 80th wealthiest county, as the country's 80th wealthiest county. I would like to remind the commissioners, as well as others here in attendance, that a budget is a reflection of an organization's priorities. I am appreciative that this budget takes a proactive approach in prioritizing the most vulnerable among us. I would like to remind you that a healthy community is one in which all residents have access to a quality education, safe and healthy homes, adequate employment, transportation, physical activity, nutrition, and in addition, quality health care. I am proud to see your budget reflecting these priorities tonight. In particular, I appreciate the investments we have made and continue to make in regards to mental health. Under the excellent leadership of Tim DeWeese, the county has found innovative ways to expand the services they provide to the vulnerable populations among us while finding new sources of revenue to fund them. When it comes to the struggle that many face in affordable housing, the county has been creative and proactive. Affordable housing is a nationwide issue, but I have seen new initiatives and investments taking shape here that will result in helping renters who are cost-burdened, often spending more than 30% of their income on housing. I am happy to see new initiatives aimed at helping potential first-time home buyers transition from rental to home ownership. As well as tax relief programs for seniors and an eviction mediation pilot program and assistance for youth aging out of foster care. And lastly, I'm thankful for the ways our county government and community partners are working to address the challenges facing residents who are experiencing chronic homelessness. The work of the Dignity Project has helped articulate the path forward towards not only a shelter, but also wraparound services to enable shelter guests to achieve the stability of permanent and safe housing. Thank you very much for your service to our community and for prioritizing those areas of need.
Next, I have Laura Owen. Do we have 2?
Good evening. My name is Laura Owen. I live in Lenexa, Kansas. I have 2 issues. A March 2023 poll of the citizens of Johnson County revealed that their #1 priority is public safety. However, the majority of this county commission board has consistently voted to underfund the sheriff's office. The only commissioners that are the exception are Commissioner O'Hara and Commissioner Ashcraft. Missouri voters recently decreed that the minimum budget share for the Kansas City Police Department should be increased from 20% to 25%. And yet, in the same time that crime is exploding here in Johnson County, our county commissioners are allocating only 7.1% of the budget to the Johnson County Sheriff's Office, and that's horrible. The Board of County Commissioners has shown a complete disregard for the priorities and concerns of we, the citizens, who pay your salaries. Second point, I would respectfully request that the Board of County Commissioners revisit the salary paid to our county manager. I was outraged to learn that our county manager, Penny Ferguson, receives a salary of $400,000. In addition to a car, a retirement plan, health insurance, etc. Aren't you the least bit embarrassed by this? If not, you should be. As a citizen, I can tell you I'm disgusted by seeing these bloated salaries for staff members who have not been elected by the people. I would add that I did a little research. I didn't pay $150,000 for a study that the commission paid for, but I did a study and I learned several interesting things. ZipRecruiters, that has more salary information than any other entity in the United States of America, said that the national average salary for a county manager is $115,293. Furthermore, the average salary for a county manager in Kansas is $70,710. So how did we come up with this as the market value for this position? Finally, I would add that the largest county in the United States is San Bernardino County in California, and their county manager receives a salary of $123,195. This is outrageous. And when we look at the salary increases across the county, the majority of them went to the senior staffers who are not elected by the people. This is outrageous. Thank you.
To be fair, I'm going to call on the other Laura Owen, because I'm not sure who signed up where. And if we could be courteous and limit the outbursts, I'd really appreciate it. Ms. Owen, thank you.
Thank you.
What was the name?
No, I
know that one. Thank you. All right. And
Thank you.
thank you.
My name is Trish Unruh, and I live in Overland Park, Kansas. I support the 2024 county budget because it includes funding for mental health services and funds targeting the issues of affordable housing and homelessness. When a desperate person calls 911 or 988 with a mental health emergency, I want to know that the county has the services in place to address their needs both for the short and the long term. My husband and I were two of the many volunteers recruited by United Community Services to help with a point-in-time count. We went out on a bitterly cold morning in January to count people spending the night in their cars, in shelters, and with no shelter at all. Only a short distance from our home, we found people living in cars and outside with no shelter. I support a long-term plan to address homelessness, including but not limited to a year-round shelter. I commend the Commission for studying and developing strategies to tackle the challenges of affordable housing in Johnson County. We all remember the signs at the height of COVID proclaiming heroes work here. I support programs that will provide affordable housing so that those individuals who are so essential to us are able to afford to live and raise their families in Johnson County. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Jill O'Connor. Jill O'Connor.
Jill O'Connor, Overland Park, and I'm thrilled to see such a big crowd here tonight. While I'm addressing all of you at the dais, I'm mainly addressing Commissioners Allen Brand, Fast, Hanslick, Myers, and Commissioner Chair Kelly. All of you ran your last campaigns on lowering taxes, and yet here you are raising our taxes. You talk about a revenue-neutral budget, and yet you are increasing the budget well over what would be considered revenue-neutral. The 2024 budget is an 8.5% increase of $140 million over 2023. The county can raise the budget of 6.7% or $110 million and still not exceed the revenue neutral. Why can't the county live with an additional $110 million in their budget? You could save money by leaving the library budget alone, for example. They do not need a 22% increase over last year. We have plenty of nice libraries. The mental health crisis that was caused by the total mismanagement of the China virus now requires attention. You propose an increase of more than $14 million, which is 72% increase since 2022. Let's keep it at the 2022 level. And while you are at it, get rid of all DEI discussions. That will really help eliminate the mental health issues. You should use some of the $16 million in China virus relief funds from federal tax dollars to fund this mental health crisis and shift the money around instead of adding to the budget. Show some real fiscal responsibility by staying revenue neutral. You still get to raise our taxes by $110 million. That should be more than enough. When are you going to start listening to the voters? Is this the way you run your own household budgets? I think not. But then again, Chairman Kelly just bought a $1.22 million home. Next year, Chairman Allenbrand and Myers, you will be up for re-election. We intend to make sure your constituents know that you broke your campaign promises if you vote to pass this budget. And Chairman Kelly, Commissioner Hanslick, and Commissioner Fast, we will do the same thing when your re-elections come up. Your constituents care that you are raising their taxes and that you are breaking your campaign promises. Please do not pass this budget. Adjust it to make it revenue neutral. Thank you.
Next, I have Jordan Schmeidler.
Jordan Schmeidler, Overland Park. A proud taxpayer, here for a single issue in support of this budget, housing. I stand before you this evening, a resident of this county, as a mental health clinician, and as a person who stands for the poor, the oppressed, the outcast, more specifically the houseless, who more than likely are not here tonight to speak for themselves. So I stand as a voice for a communal cause. I work as a reentry mental health clinician, assisting those who are exiting incarceration back into the community. Among the many societal and interpersonal challenges that these people face is the lack of housing, let alone affordable housing. Many of the people I work with lack a secure and safe place to lay their head at night. Without this most basic element of human life, no further progress can be made. Sobriety cannot be addressed, mental illness cannot be treated, jobs cannot be obtained. The list of unattainable essential needs goes on. I understand there to be years of reservations within this community on allowing such a place for these people without homes to come. The most common thing I hear from my opponents of a homeless shelter in this area is the notion of build it and they will come. My singular response to this is they're already here. By doing nothing, it doesn't make the issue of homelessness go away. It just makes our response sinful because we know that there's an issue, but we turn our eyes and do nothing. Nor does it protect our image of this county. It taints it as we fail to provide for our fellow person in need. The other statement I have heard echoed is a textbook term to homelessness, not in my backyard. This is a cop-out response to the problem. They are here on our streets, under the bridges, in the woods and parks, in our jails and walking the sidewalks. These human beings are Johnson Countyans as much as you and I are. To be known as one of the greatest counties in Kansas and in the Midwest, of which we are very proud of, yet still do not have a solution to address our fellow citizens who are forced to endure the elements and call the streets their temporary home, leaves me in righteous anger seeking justice. These people are not Douglas counties or Jackson counties to deal with via an Uber ride north or a bus ticket west. They are ours, and it is our responsibility to find a solution and provide for them. I leave you with the words of what was once told to me. Judge a society on how they treat the poorest of the poor. If they treat the poor with dignity and respect, all else will be taken care of. May we all be judged accordingly on how we address this opportunity to come together as a county, as a community, to care for those in need of a shelter, of a home, and I support this budget. Thank you.
Next, I have Maria Holliday.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Maria Holliday, and I'm the chairman of the Johnson County Republican Party. Thank you for holding an evening meeting where the public can actually attend and be heard. I want to talk about the agenda this evening because it includes a vote on this budget. I understand that state law requires you to hold this public hearing since you have elected to exceed the revenue neutral rate. For those people listening, the revenue neutral rate is what they project it will cost to run the county for the next year. They are taking that and more. You are required to tell us that and hold this hearing, but the outcome is already predetermined. This year, you will give our county manager a raise in excess of over 22% to exceed $400,000. At the same time, Commissioner Hanslick brings forth a motion last Thursday to defund the sheriff, in her own words, so we can be more like Seattle. You will offer tax incentives to developers to build what you call affordable housing, and then charge us more to make up for what the developer does not have to pay. As of last month, and according to KCRAR, average home prices in Johnson County, and I'm a realtor, are over $475,000, so your slide is dramatically incorrect. A $100,000 home does not exist here because a lot doesn't exist for less than $20,000. You'll tell us that you voted for tax relief, but in reality, the program Low-Income Senior and Disabled Veteran Tax Relief Program sounds great, but it raises taxes for all by over $500,000 to provide relief for a maximum of 2,500 people. This budget is nothing but a template that lacks transparency and is full of waste. We could pay the county $110 million more than last year and still not exceed the revenue neutral rate. But that's not enough for staff. A Board of County Commissioners' strategic priority is housing and DEI, yet the survey from the public does not list either of these as priorities. Public safety was most important, yet last week this board voted 5-2 to defund the law enforcement in the county, while crime is on the rise. 74 more full-time employees than last year, that could make a big dent in a permanent homeless shelter. Most of the people sitting on this dais tonight are weak. Too weak to stand up to staff, too weak to ask tough questions, too lazy to do the research themselves to discover redundancies and other waste. We pay their salaries and elected them to represent us. Do not be fooled. We have little representation. This is not leadership. They represent their staff 5-2 and are more interested in their title than in helping the people of Johnson County. Thank you.
Next, I have Ben Hobart. Ben Hobart.
Ben Hobart, Westwood Hills. Johnson County does many things well. It is a good place to live, and citizens appreciate when services are effectively and efficiently provided to them. In recent years, however, there has been a distressing trend of a disregard for efficiency. There's never a critical assessment of how our tax dollars are spent. Instead, the attitude is we have a tax base that allows us to spend without meaningful limitation. Moreover, we have a board that treats reserves as slush funds for whatever is a majority of the board's current whim. Note the following. Johnson County had 3,822 full-time employees in 2015. Now this board's budget proposes that we have 4,266, an increase of 444 employees over 2015. In that 8-year period, the population of Johnson County has grown by only 8.8%. If you assume a proportionate increase in employees to serve our needs, a generous assumption, we should have 4,158 employees, 108 fewer than what is proposed. It is also proposed that the Johnson County Health Department will employ 17 more full-time employees in 2024. We do not need 17 more drug salesmen for Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna. We do not need 17 more employees fear-mongering and deceiving the public. Do not forget that the Johnson County Health Department deceived citizens in the following ways. One, they vilified the use of ivermectin by parodying the CDC's deceit that you are not a cow, you are not a horse, stop it. despite the fact that ivermectin has been administered for humans for 40 years and has incredible anti-inflammatory properties that have been proven effective in treating viral infections. 2, the department continuously referred to Mr. Areola as Dr. Areola when he was not a medical doctor but simply has a PhD in environmental toxicology. This deceived many into thinking he had expertise he did not possess. 3, the department strongly advocated that children get the clot shots, despite the de minimis risk to healthy children and the demonstrated known risk of the clot shots and unknown long-term risk. 4, the department strongly advocated for masking in our schools, forcing children to breathe their own carbon dioxide and invoking fear, distrust, and anxiety among our youngest students. Why should the citizens of this county support increased funding for the health department given this recent past history of fear-mongering and deceit? Not once did the Johnson County Health Department acknowledge the robust, God-given protection afforded by the innate and adaptive immune systems of each of our bodies. The public is waking up to the truth. Only 18% of the population in this country over the age of 5 have received the bivalent boosters. Also, the board's decision to give $23.8 million to Evergreen Living Innovations, Inc. for termination of a contract, which only had an incremental county obligation of $3.8 million remaining, was an egregious abuse of their fiduciary obligation. When a board can feather the nest of private parties to the extent you know there is waste and slush funds embedded in any Johnson County budget proposal, why should we trust you to make efficient use of more of our funds? Thank you.
Next, Anna Tarr. Anna Tarr. Is there an Anna Tarr?
Can you say that again?
Anna Tarr?
Anna Tarr?
Okay. Well, next. Oh,
He's coming.
Okay. Thank you. We're waiting.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Anna Tarr. Pleased to meet everybody. I have a couple of questions here. Glad to be here. Want to know about BlackRock and how Tyler Technologies is got their hands with them, and they're going all over the country, like over in Kansas City with the fiasco with the property tax debacle. And how did they get involved in 2022? Buy up a lot of the shares in Tyler Technology and tell them to go and raise property taxes on people all over the United States. The other thing that I want to impress is how come Johnson County Community College gets so much money? And they have a lot of people that pay tuition, they get grants, they get all this stuff. And then the other thing, if you go to your utility bills, folks, there's money coming off of your utility bills, whether it's Infinity, Evergy, Atmos, for the taxes. And where is that money being added into the pile? Does anybody pay attention to your bills that you get for your utilities? You look at them and see, like Evergy, like over $40 a month that's going toward the county and some other entities in Kansas for taxes. And I don't think people pay any attention to this. So how is that being added? And then we have a lot of people that come into the country that are living in apartments that are allegedly not paying anything for the schools. But the people that own a home are expected to pay subsidies through their property taxes. And I think we may have a moratorium where we don't raise property taxes every year. Why not have a layoff year? Two off, one on. Is that possible? To do something like that? Why do we need to always raise property taxes every year? And just because we had a lot of people in desperation seeking shelter in Johnson County from other counties that were across the country because they want to get out of the pandemic, the shutdowns, they come here, they want to pay whatever amount to get rid of, their aches and pains to move here. And so we'll pay whatever for a house. That doesn't mean that the person who's in that neighborhood wants to sell their home. But they're forced to make options because, oh, now your property is this amount of money because someone's willing to pay something. Does it mean it's really worth that? Or is that just an evaluation? But again, going back to, looking at, some of the stuff on the sheet, You know, they definitely need to cut the budget for the community college in half. They need to look into BlackRock and what deals were cut to get them here so they could screw over people on their property taxes. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Next is Stephen Snitz.
I'm Steve Snitz. I'm from Prairie Village. The Kansas Truth in Taxation Act. That's why we're here today. That's why all of you guys came, because when a taxing entity like this board decides to exceed the revenue neutral rate, which is government speak for raise your taxes, they have to hold a hearing, okay? They are hearing us, patiently hearing us. But are they listening? Let's not be unfair. Maybe they're listening, maybe they won't. So far, in today's agenda, they've published the budget. They're going to vote on the budget as presented. Okay, so all these comments have already been digested before they got here, and they're going to vote this way. But maybe, instead of voting 5-2, they'll flip it and they'll listen, and maybe we can recast this budget. We'll have to wait and see. You are raising taxes again on your hapless citizens. Government, but wait a minute, I've lost my place here, sorry. Many people have cut their expenses at home and are living in survival status. You talk about the needy, they're in their home, but they're in survival status with their bills. Many others couldn't cut enough and had to leave their homes. They had to lose their homes. Johnson County government has not had to endure this kind of pain. But the Lord is watching, and I'm going to take a different tack here. Dear Lord, please watch over the people of Johnson County as they fight government out of control spending of their money. Please help them join with one another in one voice to say no. And please help the people in Johnson County government to understand and feel the suffering of many citizens under their policies. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Next is Lindsay Livingston. Is there a Lindsay Livingston?
Be patient while I set up, sorry. Okay, you good? Okay, I'm using an interpreter because I am hard of hearing deaf, FYI. Okay, my name is Lindsay Livingston. I am from Shawnee. I'm a school psychologist by profession. However, here this evening, I am here to help put a face to the problematic issue of housing in Johnson County. I grew up in Johnson County. I went to the University of Kansas. I went on to get graduate degrees at Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C. I came home. I worked full-time. I started to struggle with several disabling conditions. I dropped my work to half-time. I had brain surgery. I stopped being able to work, and I became homeless. This can happen to anyone listening to my story. This can happen to your child, relative, friend, or neighbor. We are all just one or two tragic events away from a housing crisis. There I was, homeless, and the community I grew up in was not able to find me a place for me. Johnson County Support Services moved me away from my family, friends, neighbors, and church. I had to try and build a new support system in Topeka homeless shelter. While in Topeka, I worked diligently to completing my social services disability income paperwork and started the process of applying to subsidized housing locations in Johnson County. The paperwork for this is grueling and extremely repetitive. I soon came to realize that even the places that were designated as 65 years and older, or for people with disabilities, which are the places that have the most turnover, had minimum year-long wait lists, and regular single-family locations had wait lists as long as 3 to 4 years. When I checked into Johnson County's Section 8 voucher program and learned that that is an extremely restrictive and rarely opens. When it's open, it's poorly publicized. It's only open for one day, and it usually fills within the first hour of opening. It's as if my community and neighbors don't want me here. The community I spend money in, I vote in, I volunteer my time in. I want to be here. I need to be here. I deserve to be here just as much as you all. The next phase of my life was the housing insecurity phase. I went from couch to spare bedroom to car and back to couch, staying with friends, relatives, house sitting for people. I found out rather quickly that submitting Johnson County housing paperwork from Topeka wasn't gonna work. Around half the applications could not be obtained or submitted electronically. Finally, I was granted SSDI, so I had some income, and my name finally came to the top of the 15 subsidized housing locations I applied to. I finally had housing. I moved in, and then I learned about the bed bugs, the leaky roof, the cracked uneven floors, the high office manager and maintenance staff turnover, the somewhat inaccessible handicapped entryway doors, and the mold problems, which was causing my chronic illnesses to be exacerbated. I realized this was a good start, but I would prefer safe, affordable housing. I'm currently still fighting defense with the bed bugs and attempting to make peace with my mold. So I'm asking the committee to please adopt the current taxation, or heck, even put forth more funds to implement it. The goals and recommendations outlined in the USC Johnson County Housing for All Toolkit, which I took part in creating. Will you please help me find affordable housing?
Thank you, Ms. Livingston. Next, I have Mike Perry.
My name is Mike Perry. I live in Leawood. I have questions. First, who do you work for? The answer should be every Johnson County resident and taxpayer. Your website says you are responsible stewards, to be responsible stewards of taxpayers' money. That does not mean spend it all, then raise taxes some more so you can spend more. Why? Why do your actions and decisions as a board often have the appearance of serving some other agenda or entity other than the people of Johnson County? I'd like to know that, and I'm sure other people would too. Why do you constantly hound Sheriff Hayden for his good work uncovering election crimes? He is one of the few elected people who understands who he works for. Let him do his job and stop any and all efforts to defund his activities. We see what you're doing, and it's not good. Being complicit is the only reason I can imagine anyone would oppose election crime investigations. Who benefits from it? Actions speak much louder than words, Mrs. Hanlick. You and the board need to be held accountable far more than Sheriff Hayden ever will. Yes, I saw your news interview about him. Next question. Why in the face of the extreme inflationary period of time would you think it's okay to increase our taxes above revenue neutral? Your budget has more than doubled in the last decade. If anything, this board should be budgeting below revenue neutral, like most households must do to remain solvent. Most do not have the ability to add hundreds or thousands of dollars more to their monthly income to offset these egregious taxes and out-of-control inflation costs. Unlike irresponsible government entities, families and businesses must live and operate within their means. This board must change and operate the same way. So I ask the question again, why do you think it is okay to exceed revenue neutral, effectively imposing a tax increase on Johnson County residences? Each of you campaigned on responsible leadership and lowering taxes, yet for the record, only 2 of you have lived up to those promises. Thank you, Charlotte O'Hara and Michael Ashcroft. The rest of you failed miserably. Costs for basic necessities that we all buy every day are through the roof. So in case I wasn't clear earlier, don't raise our taxes. To close, I'll share a well-known Bible verse, Proverbs 29:2, which says, "When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people mourn and groan."
Thank you, Mr. Perry.
There's a lot of mourning and groaning going on among the people right now.
Thank you,
Don't
Mr.
raise
Perry.
our taxes.
Thank you. Next, I have Shanta Dickerson. Shanta Dickerson?
Can you?
Shanta Dickerson. Okay. If we see Shanta, we will come back to her, but for now, let's move on to Jeff Harkness. Jeff Harkness.
Jeff Harkness, Overland Park. Hey, Chairman, Commissioners. Nowhere in the U.S. Constitution does the word efficiency appear. So during the federal government's budgeting process, you'll hear terms like streamline or cutbacks in national security, national defense, and energy cutbacks. My biggest part of my tax bill is my school districts, half and half. I got half for school districts, half for the other government items on the list. I don't know, and I'm thinking this is probably going to end up going up more because the school districts are suing the social media companies. Hope that works out good. I don't know. Hopefully we can get them to go after the Department of Education and kind of we can get a restructure that department. Safety, or the number one concern of parents is safety. Homeland Security was created for two reasons. One, to test out the AI technology on the public. And now that it's gone, now they're giving it back to us, the wages are going to go up, so it's going to affect all of us. The next part was to nationalize or standardize security across their operations in America, which also at the same time eliminated state and local customs, cultures, and whatnot, and practices. Now what we got, so to me, underfunding the sheriff for years was just like defunding the police. It was a direct attack on our culture. And that's one of the things the government's supposed to protect us against is culture attacks. The President Biden and President Trump are both telling us and showing us that the federal government is the tail wagging the dog. The bureaucracy has gotten so weaponized that we need to, actually I think we need to get them to form a task force and let's do a audit on the federal government. Let's find out where all the money is. Let's audit the Treasury Department, the Department of Interior. Let's find out where it is so we can get an idea of what we got before we can come up with some solutions. We're getting close to our 250th anniversary in 2026. So I'm hoping we can look to that point and hopefully straighten things up. Thanks.
All right, next is Terrell Scarborough. Terrell Scarborough.
I'm Terrell Scarborough, and I live with my family in Lenexa. We support keeping the Johnson County 2024 budget at the revenue neutral level. I understand the many needs of our growing county and appreciate your desire to keep our county thriving. I also understand how hard inflation and the cost of living increases have been to us. One example, my parents who are in their 80s live on a fixed income, and their rent went up $200 a month for the next year, in addition to all the higher costs for just about everything compared to just a few short years ago. We recently received our 2023 estimated tax notice, proposing an additional 10% plus increase, totaling 12 easy payments of only $105 a month. It really doesn't make the increase easier to work in our family budget to break it down to monthly payments, like at a car dealership, trying to convince you you can afford a nicer car's monthly payments. Plus, it's not just proposed increases to county taxes, it's also big increases for schools and additional for Lenexa, the community college, et cetera, in there. I understand it's hard to stay within the mandated revenue neutral rate and why you want the taxpayers to approve exceeding that tax rate. As commissioners, you must make some hard decisions. But that's no different than the people who own property here. Except we can't just ask for more money to increase our revenues. As for those services and budget decisions, in this room I've heard words to the effect, we've gone through the budget and cut or delayed expenditures where we can. And one of you asked something to the effect, what program should we cut? As if sacrifices shouldn't be on the table and there isn't more you can do. There's always more you can do, even if that means we don't get everything we want. My husband and I have to make hard decisions. What should we cut from our budget for higher taxes? Should we cut the arts and theater opportunities and classes we provide for our daughter, or guitar lessons for our son? Some families have excess to spend or sacrifice. Many do not, especially those at the lower end of the economic scale or the elderly. This hard place is where we need leaders who have the courage to make discerning, difficult, and probably unpopular decisions to remain faithful to keeping the tax rate revenue neutral. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I hope you do.
All right. Next is Marvin Michaud. Marvin Michaud.
My name's Marvin Michaud. I live in Olathe, been here since '89. And I'd like to say that, Lindsay, I'm sorry you're homeless, but the Johnson County Commission probably won't help you get any housing, but they will be sending you some company shortly. I'd like to tell you a story. There was a house in Johnson County, purchased 1989, and the taxes was $940, brand new house, a model on the block, as a matter of fact. Today, the taxes on that house is up to $4,000. The person living in that house, when turning age 65, the taxes were $2,000 that year. Well, how many people are there out there that scrimped and saved and bought a house like that? 89.6, what a bargain. Worth $311,000 now. But what is this person going to do? Let's say this person was your average hardworking guy, and when he had a big family, wasn't able to save a lot of money, and he retired on, say, just Social Security. So him and his wife saved, one of them's getting $1,200 a month, the other one getting $1,800 a month. How many months of their wages do you think people think you need? And here's the problem with the taxes. The problem with the taxes is this: everybody don't pay their fair share. How many dollars of tax could this county be bringing in if all of these businesses, apartment buildings, and everything else that's come in here, which has caused this explosion in people and infrastructure costs, what if they weren't able to they had to pay their taxes? What if they didn't have to wait 20 years before they could chip in their share and lay off our damn sheriff?
Next, I have Mike Joseph. Mike Joseph.
Mike, you and I had a conversation before you were elected, and you were so supportive about reducing or maintaining taxes. My name is Mike Joseph. I live in Lenexa. I've been a Johnson County resident since the late 80s. I am retired on Social Security for my fixed income, and I have advanced arthritis, so I can't be a Walmart greeter. My home's appraisal has gone from the 200s to now $500,000. My taxes have risen by over 10% a year for multiple years now. Of course, I've appealed, but with no results. My home is 52 years old, unimproved, with deferred maintenance. My recent appraisal comps were against 2 brand-new builds, and one home in the neighborhood, our neighborhood, that was completely updated and remodeled and sold for over $600,000 to out-of-state tech workers at the peak of the bubble. That's my comp. That house went from $300,000 to $640,000 selling price in 1 year. That's what the appraisal based my values on. Can you say unfair? The proposed property taxes for my house are 1/3 of my annual income. I am not alone. In the past, I produced the County Appraiser's Office appeals video and was the marketing director for the International Association of Assessing Officers. I know how the algorithms work and understand the oversight that the state legislature and the county commission has over the appraiser's office. I've been planning to remain in my house for the next 20 years and not sell it before then. Currently, my property taxes are unsustainable, and I, like many seniors in the county, are being forced out of my forever home. Many states, dozens, cap property taxes for seniors. New York State even cuts the education portion of property taxes in half for seniors. Kansas does nothing. And by the way, I understand that what I'm referring to is not only the county, but the state. Our state legislature is culpable too. Of course, everyone who has a brain knows that it's less expensive to the county or state to keep elderly in their homes. It burdens the support infrastructure and taxpayers much less. This is well proven. The current taxation process for seniors is unsustainable and detrimental to everyone, seniors, other taxpayers, and the government. So, given all that, I'd like the answer to the question, what are you doing to keep Johnson County seniors in our homes when it comes to property tax relief?
Thank you, Mr. Joseph.
I look forward to a revenue-neutral vote.
Next is Mike Thompson.
Mike Thompson, Shawnee, Kansas. And Senate Bill 13 was passed in 2021 to establish a revenue neutral rate, mainly because the property tax cap was not working. Counties, other taxing entities were finding ways around it. And the reason that we tried to institute this is because we were hearing from groups like this, well-informed individuals from all over Johnson County, but I also hear from people all over the state. Because I happen to be one of those senators who listens to people, and so I get property tax. I get my largest number of emails comes from people saying, I am being taxed out of my home. I can't afford to live here, just like the previous speaker was saying. And if you look at inflation, if you look at the 1980-based inflation rate, CPI is about 12%. The true way, when you start factoring in energy, food costs, and things of that nature. Federal Reserve interest rate is now 8% or greater and climbing. You cannot continue to raise taxes in a bubble. And anybody who owns a business who raises taxes or raises their prices 17%, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to lose business. They won't be able to sell as many products. And yet when the county decides, well, we need to hire 75 more people or we need to build something new, well, we'll just slip through a few tax increases. This is unsustainable, as many people have been saying. So we have 10 taxing authorities, at least,
that I'm being affected by. 9 out of 10 of those are increasing their revenue neutral rate, some by as much as 21 to 22%. So nobody is considering the aggregate impact on each individual. It's not just the county is 17%, or Shawnee Mission is 21, 22%. It's all of that piling on, and if this continues every year, people are not going to be able to afford to stay in their homes. They're being chased out of the state. Businesses are going to close down, continue to close down. And if you think Senate Bill 13 is the end, if this continues, I feel personally, as a senator who supported this, that the county government, the taxing authorities are thumbing their nose at our constituents, at our taxpayers. And I'll be paying very close attention tonight. If this goes up, if all these other tax authorities continue to increase it, then you think Senate Bill 13 is bad. I've got some ideas. Thank you.
Mr. Morgan.
Good evening. I'm Gary Morgan with Overland Park. For week after week, we come to the regular scheduled Thursday morning meetings and watch the usual 5-2 commissioners crew give nearly free rein to our various county managers, allowing them to increase spending for various programs without much evidence of accountability. Much of this responsibility should fall on the shoulders of our highly paid county manager, who just happened to get a whopping 22.5% pay raise as a direct result of the same 5-2 crew 2 weeks ago. Earlier this year, I suggested that the commission challenge the county managers to bring back a proposal for cutting their respective budgets by a targeted 10%. To my knowledge, no such formal challenge was ever even made. We might be nearing the end of the worldwide pandemic, but the average citizen in our county certainly has nowhere near come back to the place they were financially before the man-made madness was dumped on humanity, greatly amplified by this commission supporting and mandating shutdown of small businesses while letting the big box giants like Walmart stay open. Many, many small business owners are still hurting. Home prices and building costs have skyrocketed during these last 3 years, greatly increasing the value of the properties, as we've heard many times tonight, thus increasing the average property taxes. Obviously, the average mill levies are not decreasing with that over increase of valuation. Couple that with the average worker in this county has not saw their wages increase to even remotely match the staggering real inflation we're experiencing as our federal government prints even more dollars to pay for all of their out-of-control spending programs. It is long past time when the commissioners need to act on behalf of the people they represent to control our spending through reduced programs and prudent housekeeping practices. Tax-exempt programs need to be reduced to the extent that private homeowners never end up paying for these tax incentive programs. I'm going to go off script here a little bit, but this graph for the ratio of FTE's population, what's not being considered with this is the amount of renters that we have now compared to private home ownership. And we were one of the best counties in the state when it came to private home ownership. Now we're like spiraling out of control with rents. And I tell you what, these are 15-minute cities, and Mr. Kelly knows what I'm talking about. Clearly, I'm not optimistic about the budget actions and decisions this commission's about to make, largely because of the track record and reputation this commission has made for themselves over the past few years. But even more recently, the dictatorial actions of this commission's chairman often shows no respect or professional regard to all of the commissioners' views and suggestions. There have been valid fiscal proposals laid out before you today, plans that would result in revenue-neutral budgets. The question is this: do some of you even care enough to consider the average property tax-paying person, or will you roll the dice and assume that your next election will not be impacted by your decisions, coupled with what will be, by the way, greatly improved Johnson County election integrity in 2024? Thank you.
Next is Carrie Brandon.
Am I next? Carrie Brandon. Carrie Brandon. I actually live on the Douglas County side, but I'm a lifelong grew up in Johnson County, and it's been a county that has just been a really integral part of my entire life. And we actually have residential investment properties and a commercial property in Johnson County. So I feel like I really need to be heard tonight, not just because of my past in Johnson County, but because I still have a future in this county. And about 2 years ago, or 2018, I started showing up at these Board of County Commissioner meetings. And I do want to just preface one thing, that if you guys aren't feeling, and let me tell you, Charlotte and Michael Ashcraft, the two of you, I personally really appreciate the fact that you actually do listen to the public. And I am not feeling that. I hate beating people up, but sometimes you have to call people out. Like Shirley Allenbrand really disregarded the public safety in Gardner with all the trucking stuff with the intermodal and the Burlington Northern, Warren Buffett's whole blown up logistics. And what I'm feeling here is there's too much emphasis with Ed Eiler, even before you, Commissioner Kelly, too much emphasis on economic development and your AAA bond rating. And you have even a Facebook post that brags on your AAA bond rating for your strong financial management in the county. And, the county received AAA ratings from 3 bond rating agencies and the highest possible rating due to its strong financial standing. And this is your article that you wrote. These bond ratings from Standard & Poor's Global Ratings, Fitch Ratings, and Moody's Investors Service help blah, 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 right? But to the commoner, like myself, whose property taxes just keep going up, 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 it is true that we are beginning to lose hope, and we don't trust, and we're losing faith in you all as our commissioners, the people that are supposed to be voted in to represent us. It's like we're not being heard. And when you censor public comment on Thursday mornings at 9 a.m., you censor it by not recording it and not archiving it for the rest of the county to listen to. It's 9 a.m. on a Thursday morning. We have to work. I'm trying to pay my bills. I'm trying to keep my employees employed. And you're taxing me out of my business properties, my residential, my renters can't stay, and my home, even Douglas County side. It's like impossible. Is this a plan? Is this meant to be what you want to do to citizens? I mean, I am not prepared tonight because I'm literally exhausted by all of this, guys. I mean, it's like, it's endless. And you should be feeling it intuitively that there's something that smells here really bad.
Thank you. All right. We've been now going for a little over 90 minutes. For the sake of the clerk and our interpreters, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. We'll come back here in 5 minutes. Thank you all very much for your patience.
Thank you, Mr.
continue on with calling the names in the order in which they were received. So thank you all very much. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for your courtesy to those who are speaking. The next name we have on our list is Mark Scannell.
My name is Mark Scannell. I'm from Lenexa. I'm here just to echo what countless others have said prior to me about fiscal sanity. Currently, we are in a state where there is a drastic amount of inflation not seen since the 1970s. In both instances, the 1970s and today, the inflation has been brought on by reckless government taxing and spending, largely at the federal level, and also by irresponsible monetary policy. Citizens of this county and throughout this nation really just have to cut back where it matters. We have to cut back just so much. Groceries are through the roof. Gasoline is through the roof. Utilities are up. I just saw a notification on my phone just a few minutes ago from Yahoo Finance about people not being able to pay their credit card bills. The only way out of all of this inflation spiral is what has been done in the early 80s. It was just fiscal sanity. And I ask you, ladies and gentlemen of this county commission, to exhibit some fiscal sanity and adopt the revenue neutral mill rate. A tithe is just 10% of our income that goes to goes to the church. Government at federal, state, and local levels far exceeds that. I'm sorry, but the government is not above God. God is above all things in this universe. By taking on such irresponsible fiscal policies, this is something that you have seen out of California for an extremely long time, for decades. And the result of that, ladies and gentlemen of the commission, is just the hollowing out of the middle class, where they all move to states like Texas and Tennessee and Florida, which has the best dang governor in the history of this nation. That is all I have to say.
All right. Next, I have Angela Bertaccini. Angela Bertaccini.
While I believe there is more to be done, thank you to the legislature for passing the truth in taxation legislation. Without it, we would not be here tonight making the process of raising property taxes more transparent. My husband and I own a home in Leawood and 3 commercial properties where we own and operate 3 preschools. I'm going to share with you some of the tax increases we have seen in our homes and our home and businesses. If this revenue neutral rate were to increase, our home would see a 9% increase year over year for a total of 30% in 7 years. One of our commercial properties would see a 45% increase over the last 7 years. Another one has seen a 70% increase in the last 2 years, and another one 12.5% increase in the last 5 years. We have made some improvements, but those are necessary when owning a business. It's almost like you're being punished for making building improvements. We would see a 12% increase year over year if the revenue neutral rate is to increase. My parents, semi-retired, they have seen a 42% increase in their property taxes in the last 6 years, and they will see a 14% increase if this were to increase now. My sister, 35% since 2018, she'll see an 8% increase year over year. These numbers are not sustainable. Business owners such as myself are forced to pass these increases on to our consumers, majority of them JOCA residents. Restaurants, grocery stores, retail shops, etc. Not only will JOCA residents pay more taxes in their home, but their expenses outside of their homes as well. I hear all the time, we really want to lower child care costs in Kansas. We provide care to 282 children in Johnson County. These tax increases will just be passed on to families and increase their child care costs. At what point do these tax increases become theft? Will the county cut costs, decrease wasteful spending, and appropriately budget like the rest of us have to? Please do not exceed the revenue neutral rate.
Next is Cindy Green. Cindy Green.
Good evening, Cindy Green from Lenexa, Kansas. I am the chair of the Johnson County Commission on Aging, and there are several other people from the commission here this evening that we are having me speak as the chair. But we are here tonight to support the budget that's presented for the Department on Aging and Human Services. We want to focus on keeping elderly in their homes, and that's what we do on the commission. And one of the items in particular that's important for this funding in the budget this year is for the Senior Health Insurance Counseling of Kansas. It's a SHIC coordinator. This service has actually been held and taken care of outside of our county for the past several years. And so it's time to bring that back here where it's easier for seniors to reach out and get this counseling so that they understand what health insurance plans are available to them. I turned 65 this last year, and it is overwhelming the amount of information you receive on getting Medicare. And even if they're not on Medicare and other services that they need, it's just great to have that service here in Johnson County. So I also want to let you know today is National Senior Citizens Day, and it's an opportunity for us to celebrate and appreciate the citizens and the services and accomplishments that they have dedicated their lives to. So those in Johnson County, I want to make sure we are taking care of those seniors, as does the Commission on Aging. So thank you for the support that you continue to give seniors, and we are in support of the budget that you are recommending for the Department on Aging. Thank you.
Next, I have Joe Becker.
Joe Becker, Olathe, Kansas. I'm relatively new to the community, 2 years. I have and share the same thoughts with everybody else regarding the tax increases and the assessment on my property being unfair to the local market, as well as the process of the budgeting being in excess of neutral or even less so. Being in business many years, many budgets, I understand the process. It's very extensive, it's very detailed, but at the same time, there seems to be the fiscal responsibility that it should have. Those points have been made. I'm not going to reiterate them. What I'll do, though, is I will close on something I hadn't thought about talking about. Observing the board casually over the last 2 years and some of the concerns that have been expressed tonight, some things that we don't know about that should be reviewed a little more so by the constituents is that these board members have a surety bond. And those bonds are bonds that are available to be exercised on if our committee does not exercise prudency in our safety, our education, and our health care. And I want to just leave that in your hands to do some research, because it takes very few people of constituents to raise a concern of them not doing their job, even maybe to the level of criminal nature, so that these surety bonds can be exercised and they can get addressed with these people in a proper manner. That is our revenue for addressing their concerns that they aren't giving us.
Next is Scott Berticini.
I'm Scott Berticini. I'm a Leawood resident, 10 years. Definitely not as eloquent as my wife that went recently, but I did want to share a story with everybody. About 2 weeks ago, my youngest daughter and I watched the Disney movie Robin Hood, the 1970s, 1960s movie Robin Hood. And it's a cartoon, but it's so simple. she was wondering why all the poor animals kept having to give up money and money to, I think, the prince. And she said they don't have any more to give. They have no more to give, and yet he kept taking more and more and more. And you talk about this responsibility to the most needy. You know, I work out of people's houses every day, and I work in a lot of elderly homes. And I see people that defer maintenance, like that gentleman right there. And I see them not being able to afford to pay for that deferred maintenance because their property values have somehow increased, and their taxes are incredible, and they're on fixed incomes. I don't know what you expect. You expect them to sell and just to move away and become somebody else's problem? And that's not taking care of those people in need. So I guess my question is, what do we get? What do we get for spending all this money on taxes, giving up more and more of our income? You talk about the parks and recreation. Right out the front side of this building, I see this multi-million-dollar absurd sculpture going in. Stop work right now. Stop work. Give that money back. It makes no sense. I look at this building. I see there's not a light out in the room, maybe that one. All this equipment that you have, we own multiple businesses. And I'm the guy fixing all this stuff because we can't afford to pay all these different contractors to come in because our taxes have increased. You heard her say 70% on one building, 45% on another building over 6 years. It's insane. We can't afford it. These people can't afford it. They're telling you that. You know, it gets passed on to everybody else. So whether it's your haircut, or whether it's my milk that I have to buy for my kids, or whether it's childcare for the almost 300 people that bring their kids to entrust my wife's business. Those people pay more every day. And you got to think about that. You really have to listen. Because I hear people out there, I hear these people in here, and I want to hear that you think about that and you're hearing that in your vote. Don't increase the rate.
Next, we have Phil Bauer. Phil Bauer. Phil Bauer.
Oh, Phil's out there.
Hi, my name's Phil Bauer, and I live in Leawood in the 1st District. And I want to thank those of you who've stated publicly your desire to not raise taxes. And I ask you, stay true to your word by voting no on this budget that increases our property taxes. First of all, Commissioners Ashcraft, Commissioner O'Hara, thank you for voting against the publication of this tax increase of a budget. Really appreciate that. Chairman Kelly, thank you for your comments in the January 26 meeting where you referenced Laura Kelly's State of the State address and mentioned that Governor Kelly, and I quote, asked the legislature to meet her in the middle on things in which we can agree, things like increasing economic development and lowering taxes. And you went on to say, I think that's a nice sentiment that maybe we could try to take in this commission as well as we work together in the interest of all people in Johnson County. So thank you, Chairman Kelly, for stating your desire to lower taxes for all Johnson County residents. Commissioner Allenbrand, thank you for your comments in the April 13 meeting where you mentioned meeting with commissioners from other states to learn about how they budget. And you said, and again I'll quote, talking about tax increases in our state, maybe we can help by looking at other states and seeing how that's done. I'm sorry, talking about tax freezes in our state. Maybe we can help by looking at other states and seeing how that's done. Sorry to get your quote wrong the first time. So thanks, Commissioner Allenbrand, for your desire to freeze taxes, hopefully not only at the state level, but at the county level too. And Commissioner Fast, thank you for this campaign mailer from last year that shows your #1 listed plan to move the county forward as providing tax relief. So thanks, Commissioner Fast, for wanting to lower taxes for all of us, and I hope not just some of us, as in that so-called tax relief program that costs us taxpayers $500,000. So that makes 5 of you in favor of either lowering or freezing taxes, and I look forward to your no votes on this budget to reflect that. But let's make it unanimous. Commissioners Hanslick and Myers, I ask you too to vote no on this budget. Let's all agree today to choose the equitable solution to this budget and lower property taxes for all Johnson County citizens.
Next is Ann Timmons. Ann Timmons.
My name is Ann Timmons, Overland Park, Kansas. I had a list of things I was going to talk about here today, and I'm going to go off script, which my husband tells me I should never do, because after hearing what people have said here, I feel like there are too many things that have been said that can't be taken, that have to be taken into consideration. When I hear people say things like critical assessment, asking you guys the hard questions, and looking for some efficiency, I can't disagree with that. Those are valid points, and I'm hoping that when you guys go back there and you look at this budget, you keep those things in mind, and that it isn't that this is already preordained and this is just what's going to happen. Now, that being said, we have a restaurant, Nick and Jake's, and when you talk about the small increases that people are going to get, somebody has to cut somewhere. And those small increases, it could be the restaurant, they don't go out to eat anymore. And that's where they're going to make those small cuts. So sometimes those types of small raises in somebody's budget trickle down to the businesses around you. So I just would be really mindful of that as you make this decision. Now, that being said, I do have an argument for keeping the budget, the monies going to mental health. In 2017, there's a quote that says that people don't really care about statistics until you care about one of those numbers. And in 2017, when we lost our son to suicide, we love one of those numbers. So for me, the monies that are going to mental health, they matter. I'm on a number of boards, and one of the things that struck me was how many agencies, municipal, community corrections departments, and public health agencies intersect with Johnson County mental health. I watch how much they do to try to fund themselves, and even though I know that they need a little bit of help from you guys, I know that the money that they are given is being used with great weight, and that money is being used in a prudent way that gets back to the community. So we are lucky to have one of the most robust community mental health centers in the entire United States, and that is due to your support. And so I would ask for you to continue to support those dollars while asking you to look at the revenue neutral at the same time.
Next, I have Diane Kovich. Do I have a Diane Kovich? And I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing.
Hi, I'm Diane Kovich. I'm from Prairie Village, Kansas, and we do love our city. And I'm not as eloquent as all of you have been. I have been so impressed with everyone that has spoken here tonight. So well-versed and well-educated about what's going on. And as we're asking our city council, or our Johnson County Council to be. I feel selfish after hearing the homeless girl's, message about her trying to find care, but because I'm worried about our own situation. But you can't help others until your own family's needs have been met. And I support charitable contributions, and I want to continue to do that. Is that where I'm going to have to maybe cut to support this tax increase? For the first time, I feel my husband and I may not be able to continue to afford to be in our own home at a time where Prairie Village is pushing affordable housing. Many of the homes around us are tear downs and builds, and they're over $1 million, and that's what we're being compared to. We're retired, but we're still working part-time to make our retirement fund last longer. There are many Johnson County residents who are on fixed incomes, as others have said, whether you're owning your own home or renting, who will have their monthly bills increased with no end, it seems like, in sight. Our own personal property taxes over the past 5 years have increased by 40%. In a time where citizens are already being squeezed with the cost of food and gas and cutting back on necessities to make ends meet, it feels you are trying to destroy our middle class. An important goal for us is to keep our property in good working order. Your tax increase will make this much more difficult. And it seems to be an important issue for Johnson County cities because you have grants for residents to make improvements. Stop doing this and just lower people's personal property taxes. It feels like you are pushing out your senior citizens. It is my understanding that Mike Kelly, Becky Fast, and Shirley Allenbrand have said they were open to not raising taxes, but all voted for it. Please stick to your promises and tighten your own belts, as you are asking us to do. Don't approve the published budget. I think Sarah Palin was right. Spending other people's money or opium can become addictive.
Next is Edward Knight. Edward Knight. Edward Knight. You got it. All right.
My name is Edward Knight. I live in Leawood. I'm 73 years old. I spent 45 of those years in Johnson County. I served this country in the Marine Corps. I've been on all 7 continents, every 51 of the 50 states, and 44 countries. Don't ever take what we have here for granted. And too many people obviously are. Otherwise, we'd have had to rent T-Mobile Center for everybody in Johnson County who should care about what's going on. Now, I'm not going to reiterate what other people have said. I've agreed with some of it. I've disagreed with some of it. And that's what America's all about, okay? But when I was teaching, I worked for Rockhurst University for many years in their adult education division, did seminars on management and finance. And I used to tell a story about Abbott and Costello. Those of you who are old enough to remember Abbott and Costello. The big guy is the con man, the little guy is kind of the dupe. Abbott comes to Costello one day and says, hey, can you loan me $10? Little guy says, well, I only got $9. Big guy says, well, that's okay. Give me the $9. You can owe me $1. Next day he comes and says, hey, I got that money I borrowed from you yesterday. I want to pay you back. Now, I borrowed $9, but you owed me $1. So here's the $8 I owe you. By the end of the week, the little guy has no money left, and he doesn't know where it's gone. And I tell that story because of the fallacy of property taxes, okay? I got your little card here. My house is assessed at 23% additional value in 1 year, $150,000, okay? Now, I don't have any of that money, and I will only have it if I sell my house. So when you say we're going to up your property taxes based on your house's value, and that's another almost $1,500 in my case, I'm retired. I live on the money I get every month. I don't have an additional $1,500. Now, okay, I say that. I do. I'm very fortunate, financially secure. There's a trick to that, by the way. No kids, no pets. Okay? But again, to say, well, you've increased your property, you know, your value of your house has gone up. I have breakfast every Tuesday and Thursday with some fellows that I've met, and one guy is always talking about his investments, his stocks. Oh, I lost $3,000 yesterday. I gained $4,500 last week. I said, did you sell any of that stock? No. Well, then you haven't done anything. That's book value. And that's what you're talking about when you look at the value of our houses. That's book value. I will only have that money when I sell my house.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Next is Jim Mansfield. Jim Mansfield. All right.
Thanks. I'll be brief. A lot of this has already been said. I really wasn't looking for a tax increase. I know that you have priorities and you have staff that deal with all this. I'm just a regular guy out here and I see things in the paper, so I think you have money if you really want to find it. I see references to global warming. I don't know how much time and money is put into that, but carbon dioxide from coal is not going to hurt you or the planet. I see references to a DEI committee. We have laws, employment laws, we have human resources. I think you should do that way, and I don't know why you wouldn't spend money with a DEI committee. I don't get it. New bus route, I don't know how much that is, but I don't know how much the current routes are utilized. That's another one. Panasonic, I know the state legislature did us a number on that, but I'm reading that there's more money that the county is kind of shoveling through tax and subsidies. Do you really need to do that? That's corporate welfare, which nobody likes. Since 2015, the budget has almost doubled. I read that's a lot. And think about us. We hear some people get 20 to 30% salary increase. I mean, think about how that looks to us on the outside. There is one thing I would say yes to for a little increase. If the county said they're going to build more coal or nuclear plants, I'm in.
All right. Next is Karen Axford. Karen Axford. I see her coming. Okay.
My name is Karen Axford, and I'm from Leawood. I've lived in my home for 33 years. We got our property tax assessment showing that our house increased $192,000 by $192,000. We did no improvement, 35% increase. We did all our research. We checked out all the houses we were compared with, including new builds, including houses that had outdoor kitchens and basketball courts and tennis courts. We talked to the appraiser. We brought all our information in. We brought our own comparables. The young man said it was really good information. We felt really good about it. And then we got our letter saying no change. Then I saw the budget and I realized you're just taking our money. I retired 2 years ago. Like the other man said, we're on a fixed income, but I'm lucky. I saved a lot of money. I worked for Lockton Companies for 33 years, and they're the third largest privately held insurance company in the world. I was their accounting manager, and one of my responsibilities was to do the budget. I will tell you, if I provided a budget to our senior executive committee, which originally was Jack Lockton before he passed, he would have laughed at me if I told him that a quarter of the budget was a rainy day fund for stuff that I didn't know what I was going to do with. After he laughed, I probably would have been fired for presenting a budget like that with no information. I find that just incredibly irresponsible to say, here's our budget, here's $586 million. And I believe I saw the number one requirement of your budget principle was to maintain a sufficient general reserve for unknown. Is that really a sufficient? I also have a question, which I'm sure you don't have an answer to, but on your balance sheet, do we have any current reserves from last year, or did we spend every single dollar? Are there any reserves?
There's carryovers.
There are reserves. So we're adding money to a reserve that we don't need just to charge people more for their home. mean, we've been there 33 years, and we are literally, I'm researching with AARP to find out what states I can move to that I can afford to live in. So thank you for your time. And one of the really good things about this meeting, I don't really know much about the local politics, but I've heard names, and I know now who I'm going to vote for and who I'm going to vote out. Thank you for your time.
Next, I have Stephen Bay.
Hi, thank you. I'm Stephen Bay, and I do live in Olathe. And I am asking each of you to vote no on this proposal tonight, simply so that we can all have at least give us the perception that you are listening to a lot of people talking about a lot of things, and not just some kind of a charade because it's a state law. So that would at least make us feel better. The other thing I'd ask is that when you do vote no, that you go back to the city managers and ask them the hard questions. Why do they need what they need? What are their projects? Why do they need an increase in FTEs? They may. When I heard about the wastewater, I'm sitting there going, oh, wow, that sounds like a real need. Probably is. There might be a lot of stuff in here that aren't any needs at all. But, and then when I hear about the reserves, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, you've probably heard the saying, you ask a rich man, how much money is enough? And the answer is more. And then you go, well, how much in reserves is enough? And the answer is more. Without a plan for, well, what types of things can cause us to need these reserves? And if you have no plans for what can cause those reserves, and I know some things, they're unknown, so how can you plan for the unknown? Well, but a lot of things are, well, these are the areas, these are the things that we might come across. And here's how much we think those would cost. And that's why we need these reserves. And how often would we need these reserves? Certainly, we don't want to get ourselves in a spot where all of a sudden we're laying off half the county and half the cities around. When I saw the charts earlier and all these explanations year by year on mill levies, I'm thinking, that has nothing to do with taxes. I mean, it does. But when you're comparing mill levies to house valuations and all this kind of stuff, what really is important is the dollars. What's the dollars and how are we spending the dollars, and do we need to spend the dollars? And just like several people have already said, businesses have to budget every single year, and they look at those quarterly and they go, do we need to decrease travel? Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? You got to press your city managers, your county managers who are overseeing these projects. What do they need and why do they need it? And if they can justify it to you, then so be it. But not just, I need 10%. If I'm looking at the numbers right, we're asking for 11.16%.
Mr. Bay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you very much, sir.
Didn't mean to write it.
And I'm sorry, I'm having problems reading this next one. It's Carrie. Is it Manning? Menninger? Carrie? Is there a Carrie? All right, we'll come back to that one if she's here. Next is Jennifer Williams.
Jennifer Williams, Spring Hill, Kansas. I'm here speaking for my mother-in-law tonight. She's 86 years old. Whenever she retired, we set it up to where she could own her home, not have a mortgage, have a budget for a property tax and all of her utilities, and a little bit of extra in all of her food. Her property tax was $2,500 at the time. It's now up to $6,000 a year. You have priced her out of the senior exemption. She was at $300,000 appraisal 2 years ago. You raised her $140,000 $43,000 in 1 year. It was about a 43% increase. Priced her out. We were able to take advantage of the Safe Senior for a minute to be able to have that difference, but this year we're not going to be able to do that because she's up to $400,000 after our appeal. They dropped it a little bit. And so she is at $18,000 a year income and $6,000 a year property tax. And so you talk about homelessness, and we have people here speaking, yes, I'm for your budget because I'm for homelessness, but those two things don't have to go hand in hand. You're going to cause homelessness. You're going to cause problems with people, families getting a divorce, because the divorce is the second, financial problems are the second highest reason for divorce. And these kids need to be able to have good homes, but then our Spring Hill School District wants a 72 mill levy, and I know that's not part of your problem, but your valuations are part of that. And so the lead-in for the mill levy, it's very misleading, just like the $15.3 million budget increase that you said was only a 6% average, even though the top tier is getting 22%. Same for the mill levy. If you say 2018 to 2024, it was a 2.249 rollback. Saved us $95.46 million. It's nonsense. A mill levy is just a product of a math formula. 2018 to 2024, we actually increased the budget $99,300,000 for a 40% increase. Again, as the last gentleman said, it's dollars, not percentages. If I was like a politician and I said, my home's $100,000 a year, let's just say for simple math, I'm going to just have a 10% tax. There's your $10,000. The next year, I'm going to raise your value to $200,000 a year, and I'm going to be a really good politician, and I'm going to cut your taxes in half, and you're only going to have a 5% mill levy. It's the same dollar amount. It's all lip service. It's all just a way that you present things to make people feel good. That mill levy rollback means nothing to anybody. It's the dollars out of their pocket that make a difference. Thank you. And it's those dollars that we're having to cut. Our food budgets are up over $1,000 a month just to feed a family of 5. I'm going to pay $2,500 in property tax for 2 vehicles this year. It's ridiculous. That's not even for my home. And so what we have to pay attention to is these reserves. You're always about county policy. If we have a county policy of a 5 to 10% reserve for library, why do we have an 18.5% with a $10 million reserve? Same for public health. If it's 5 to 10%, why do we have a 26.8% after paying for the study? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Joni Crescent.
I'm Joni Robin Crescent, and I'm from Bucyrus, Kansas. The northern part is in Johnson County, so I'm legit. I'm also going to be talking about seniors because I retired this year. And last year in Kiplinger Magazine, it listed Kansas as one of the top 10 states, worst state to retire in. One of the reasons was we were listed number 13 on property taxes being the highest. That's sad. I'm ashamed. And excuse me, I get nervous. I don't like public speaking. So anyway, I think we should do something about that. But then I thought, I'm not self-centered. It's not just seniors. This affects middle class and lower middle class as well. And you are taking us out of the county. I think someone talked earlier about us being a rich county. Maybe that's what you want, just a rich county, because you're not taking in consideration the seniors, the middle class and the lower middle class people that live in Johnson County. You're pricing them out of the market. You're making them move because Missouri's getting more friendly. So another thing I wanted to talk about was and I'm a senior, the woman that talked about the health explaining health insurance. We went to a broker who was free. I think it's the government paid for it. But it was free. They explained all the insurance. I even went to YouTube and found more information. So put the money and I think use it wisely. And some of these things you're doing, like the library and special programs, I'm thinking outside the box here, but can we do fundraisers for those instead of making everybody pay? And those that want those special projects, that love them, can do the fundraiser and contribute to help support those programs. But anyway, right now, I have to say Johnson County is charging way too much in taxes.
Next is Evie Craig. Evie? Or Evie Craig? I'm here. Very good.
Sorry. Hi, my name's Evie Craig, and my husband Tom and I have lived in Lenexa since April of 1999, and our 3 grown children have subsequently moved here since then to own their own small businesses here in the county. I want to thank you for this opportunity. I attended one of the budget open houses in June and learned a lot. I appreciated the transparency, the information that I received, and I'm very appreciative again of this opportunity. I wanted to come tonight to speak very briefly to the need for safety net services, though, for persons in our county experiencing houselessness. I have had professional experience for 41 years in a number of suburban settings, being director of programs for survivors of domestic violence, of sexual assault, of homeless families, youth, and single men and women. And those with mental and physical health disabilities. Overall, this proposed budget promises to provide the outstanding standard of living that we enjoy in our county, and I thank you for that as well, but not everyone shares in that. Speaking again of our homeless neighbors, not only does our faith teach us that they are our brothers and sisters, but they are our neighbors. They were born here, they were raised here, went to school here, they worked here when they could, and still are looking for work today. The scope of the problem of homelessness in Johnson County, as shocking as it is well within our means. Safety net services could include short-term emergency and transitional housing, street outreach services, including medical services. Many of our outstanding programs in this county work very well for those who are compliant, but they are needed for all, and for those of us for those of our brothers and sisters, neighbors who are in the greatest need. So thank you again for this opportunity. Thank you for everything that you have done for our family. And again, I don't envy you this job. This is an awesome responsibility, and thank you again so much.
Next, I have Shara Collins.
Hi, everybody. It's good to see all the people. And we have to remember that we are the government and they are the servants. I just want to remind everybody of that. And I feel like this is what's happening right now is a direct result of the fraudulent elections and the machines that are not certified. So anyway, I'm winging it. I just got here a little bit ago and I was looking over the budget. There's one thing I want to mention first. It's actually a question. To Mike Kelly, I've noticed, I found a video online that you're a member of the Global Covenant of Mayors, which is a subsidiary of the World Economic Forum. It really concerns me because I think we all kind of are well aware of what's going on here. So what kind of agenda is this, along with the fraudulent elections? And I don't say that lightly. Yes, we do have the evidence. Okay, my next question is, I'm looking over at the budget. The ad valorem taxes, the personal property taxes were a total of, it looks like, $367 million, $347 million, along with this nice little pie chart of where it all gets distributed. However, I do have a question that's of grave concern. I noticed this online. It was posted July 29th, and it is a summary notice of bond sale. I think it's real important that people might want to look up what a general obligation bond is, or what bonds actually are, where they come from. I didn't know till I started doing the research, and boy, did I learn. Okay, anyway, this sale was posted on July 20th. And it's an auction through the SEC, and it all goes through the DTC. Started off at, $12.1 million in general obligations, international improvement, $5.5 million in improvement bonds. I don't know what they sold for. It was an auction, and since we have a high rating, I'm assuming it sold for quite a bit more than that. Here's the definition of a general obligation bond. It's a municipal bond backed solely by the credit and taxing power of the issuing jurisdiction rather than the revenue from the given project. General obligation bonds are issued with the belief that the municipality will be able to repay its debt obligation through taxation and revenue. Maybe that's why they're raising your taxes. Now, I also would like an explanation as to where this money and this bond sale, why is it not accounted for? in the documentation. Where is it accounted for? Why is it not accounted for? And I do think that it would be a good idea to get an outside audit firm to take a good look at this whole entire thing. And I'll tell you what, the IRS does audits as well, too, especially when there's all kinds of, shenanigans going on. There's a form, it's called a 3949A.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. Next is Thad Snyder.
Thad Snyder, Johnson County. First of all, I want the plexiglass back to protect my health, please. You guys spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of our money to put plexiglass all over the county to stop a respiratory virus from attacking us. You spent millions on masks and lockdowns. You cost people their jobs, their businesses, and now you're raising our taxes. You have mismanaged our money, and now you want more of it. That's insane. You gave a $225 million tax break to an international corporation to build batteries in our county. What do we get for that? There's billions of dollars. Charlotte, you could probably tell me how many under tax incentive financial districts. 3?
$93.5 million.
$93.5 million. Go get it from them. The developers that you don't charge, that you sell 99-year bonds that they're never going to pay back. Go get it from them. But instead, you're going to price out. You can laugh all you want, Peg. Making $200,000 a year after resigning in disgrace from Wyoming as the prosecutor, as our chief legal counsel. Peggy makes more than the President of the United States. Our county manager makes more than the Penny, whatever, it doesn't matter. Makes more than the President of the United States. That's insane. This young lady who lost her home, she's talking about the strife of trying to get aid from you. And she wants a bigger budget so that you can waste it and do a terrible job with it. She needs help. Absolutely, she needs help. And you're doing a terrible job of it. Mental health would be a lot better in this county, and you wouldn't have to spend more on it if you didn't tax people out of their homes. If they didn't have to spend all their money to buy food and could go out and actually go to Nick and Jake's like that lady suggested. There are over 200 people, correct me if I'm wrong, that make over $100,000 a year that work for Johnson County. Over 4,000 employees in a county of 600,000 people, and you can't find ways to cut? How much money do we have to throw at the air to change the climate? How much more do you need? Are you just burning our tax dollars at home to stay warm? Reserves? $500 million in reserves for the unknown? I know you're going to try to spin up COVID again. We all saw you wearing the masks a couple weeks ago. We get what's coming. It's not going to work this time. And lastly, we absolutely see what you're all doing with the sheriff and the budget. We get it. We know you're trying to defund him. It's not going to work. It's absolutely not going to work. We're going to get to the bottom of the election fraud. You will all be held accountable in 2024 when Trump wins and the Department of Justice changed back to a rational and sane Department of Justice. I'm going to take all that evidence and I'm going to go directly to the U.S. Attorney and I'm going to present them all the fraud that you were a part of. Good luck with that.
I'm going to go back to the list. All right. Madam Clerk, was Sharon Lockhart able to join us? Thank you, sir, thank you. Madam Clerk, was Sharon Lockhart able to join us online?
She did, but she has declined to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. Is Shanta Dickerson here? Shanta Dickerson, did she join us? Okay. What about a Carrie Meyering? Carrie Meyering? Okay. Is there anybody else who has not yet spoken that would like an opportunity to speak? Okay. All right, we'll take you next, sir. We're going to take them one at a time. You, sir. Yes, absolutely. Go ahead. Yep.
Just leave that clock off because I'm not. No. I just got something to say. I love you guys. I'm here as a friend. Okay? And your people who you're supposed to look out for are speaking tonight.
Can you?
Times are changing. Times are changing. People are speaking. We need to listen to what they're saying. They're getting hungry. They're getting tired. They're getting inflated out of a good living. It seems like, guys, and I don't want to say this, but it seems like there's dereliction of duty up there. And you guys, I've been in here before. I've smiled at all of you. I'm telling you, I got love for you. Linda, we talked first. And I've given you some things, to see. And Mikey, I caught you on the way up the stairs one time, and we talked about my concerns. Because when I was a kid, we used to grow produce around here, food. And we don't anymore. It's all row crops. It's all adulterated stuff. And then I'm telling you what, I was paying a bill for my mama, who's a senior, and I was paying a water bill. And I was in there paying it, and I went and I got the water quality report. And I started going through that. Guys, if you open your eyes, if you have eyes that see and ears that hear, you know what's going on. And I'm just saying this, I'm here to help you guys because I got love, and I just want to make sure nothing happens to you guys up there because I think you're doing what you know best, but you're on your own. You're on your own, like you're not looking at the stuff. There's been doctors, there's been all kinds of stuff in here in the last year. And you're ignoring them. And Mikey, come on, man. Mikey, you got to like public comment. You remember that? Man, Mikey likes the cereal. If Mikey likes it, then we eat it, Bubba. And so I can't stress enough how much this is coming from my heart. And I'm not up here scripted, and I'm not up here counting money because I can do math. I can do it pretty quick when I get honest numbers in front of me, and I can figure things out. And Penny, I'm coming with love, but I can do a better job. I mean that, sweetheart. I can run stuff. I'll bring back manufacturing. I'll get produce farms growing. I'll do some stuff. And I don't mean because there'll be a time that you'll need to tell me what's happening, but I'll take care of it for you. Peg, you too. I love you guys, and I'm serious. Things are twisted. The water's mess. The food's adulterated. The money's funny. And semantics. Seems like Mikey and Peg, are you using semantics to play us for fools? I'm talking about surety bonds now. I'm wanting to look into that stuff because I want to be taken care of. Guys, I love you. Mikey, I got more to say.
I appreciate that.
Okay,
Thank you very much,
quiet
sir.
down, please.
Hey, your time's expired. I really appreciate it. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, but we got to be fair to everybody. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Okay. All right. All right. Sir, I think you wanted to speak.
Hi, my name's Bill Burford, and I live in Shawnee, Kansas. And I guess maybe I'll represent some of the seniors that are here. I'm 79 years old, and it's reached the point now where the reality's coming in. I'm speaking just for myself, but this county's full of people just like me that can't make it here. And so you're not hearing from them, but I hear from them. I see them in the grocery stores, and we talk about it. We talk on the street corners. And it's to the point where we're going to be homeless. The only way we're going to realize this wealth is to die and leave it to somebody or sell our homes. And then where do we go? To the apartments that you're just welcoming. You love apartments. You love people coming here, but you're not taking care of the older people. You just don't seem, I think we're just cast away, and you want the young people coming in on dual income that have children and then build more schools. So it just keeps going on and on and on, and I don't know what to do. 30% of my Social Security goes to taxes and insurance, 30%. And they're going to raise, they're going to raise our insurance because our taxes go up, our insurance goes up. So I don't know where it all ends. I think it has to end right here. Somebody has to step up and say no. We tell our children, say no to drugs. I'll tell you something real quick that I just read today, that did you know that the biggest users now of marijuana are people over the age of 55? That's sad. It's sad. So, I can only say, if I could vote you all out of office, I'd vote you all out and I'd get new people in here. That's what I'd do. And get some people that will listen to what everybody here's saying. If you could have this at a high school in a gymnasium, and I could bring them, you wouldn't have a big enough gym. So I don't know who votes for you. It won't be me. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else that has not yet provided public comment yet that would like to provide public comment? Yeah, go ahead. If you wouldn't mind stating your name and your city. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. This is my first Johnson County Commissioners meeting. My name is Carrie Barth. I'm a state representative for Kansas House District 5. And I'm here just to listen to the people. I really care what they have to say. I have a very small portion in my district. That is Johnson County. I have the southwest portion, which is pretty much the intermodal Gardner area. And I hear everybody loud and clear, so I want to say thank you. I'm so proud of the community that's here tonight. We all care about people. We all care about your money. We care about your taxes. Tax increases that are unnecessary in my book are called stealing. It's called theft. You don't need the money. Don't take it. It's robbery. Please don't do it. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Last call for comment. Okay, then we're going to go on to the action agenda. On the action agenda this evening is resolutions number 074-23, 075-23, and 076-23. Ms. Symes is here. Thank you for your presentation earlier. And thank you, everybody, for the discussion this evening. Whether you believe me or not, we really do appreciate it. We appreciate your comments and really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and share them with us. No matter how you feel about the budget, I do appreciate that you've all shared some of your time with us this evening. So with that, Ms. Symes, we're going to consider these resolutions. You're available for questions. Any questions from the commission at this time? Commissioner O'Hara?
Thank you. What I find amazing is that our budget seems to reflect how much taxes we can collect from increased valuations. I mean, we're talking about that we'll roll the mill levy back 1/4 mil. That's an insult. That is an absolute insult. How is it that our budget year after year reflects approximately what we can increase due to increase in valuations? And there is a direct correlation. So my question is, what if we couldn't collect that much in taxes? What if the appraised values didn't increase that much? What if our appraised valuation overall stayed flat? What would we do? Would we increase the mill levy? Oh no. That would be bad press, because we always want to roll the mill levy back a little bit so that we can say, well, we rolled your mill levy back. But it's true. It's not the mill levy. It's the increase in your valuation. I own a small business. I feel the pain. I have 2 small industrial buildings in my personal house, and those combinations going to be another $7,000 out of my pocket. Now, what am I going to do? Am I going to raise my rent rates to my tenants? Those are small businesses. Those are your neighbors. It never ends. There's no fiscal responsibility. $582 million in reserves. We give $23 million to Evergreen, and yet we can't take $22 million, roll back the mill levy so it is revenue neutral, and that then we can get our house in order next year and not increase taxes? Really? I'm appalled. As a businesswoman, if I ran my businesses this way, I would be bankrupt. But it's because we are totally able to raise expenditures because of valuations, and this is nothing but a tax on unrealized gains. It doesn't work for the Democrats in Washington, D.C. Why does it work at the Johnson County level and the city level? And we are giving $93.5 million of your tax dollars away as of 2022 to large corporations through industrial revenue bonds and tax increment finance districts. That's appalling. You can give all of these monies away, $200 million to Panasonic, $872 million to Panasonic. Panasonic's now eligible for another $6.8 billion. Really? Do you know what that's going to do to the wages in Johnson County? We won't be able to compete. They have a $4 billion project, and they're going to get more than $8 billion. What is wrong with this picture? And we are taxing you out of your homes. I am absolutely ashamed.
All right. Commissioner Hansel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like you, I appreciate everyone that's come today, and I especially appreciate because we have the opportunity to clarify some misinformation that I've heard. And I'm glad Ms. Symes is here. First of all, I am a taxpayer just like you. I am not wealthy. I probably have less wealth than many of you here. I'm a social worker. And when I received my estimated tax notice, and I figured this up, my increase for the county, library, and parks is $7 a month. And like you, I live in a home I've lived in for 26 years. For health reasons, my husband and I would like to find something more appropriate for aging. We can't afford that. But $7 a month is not going to make any difference in our income to be able to make us be able to have a different home.
Thank you all very much. Thank you all.
So I want to say that because I understand what you're saying, but you have to understand, if you look at your tax bill, only about 20% of your bill goes to the county, parks, and library. So even if we eliminated and went to zero mill levy, you would still have 80% of your bill. And that would also mean you would have no ambulance service, you would have no road service, you would have no mental health.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
So you need to put that in perspective, that the county portion of your property taxes is very small compared to the taxes for schools, cities, and state and other taxing entities. We're just part of that bill. The other issue I've heard a lot is that the sheriff is being underfunded. Well, the sheriff has the largest budget of any department in the county that is taxpayer funded. And over the past year, there have been millions of dollars put into that budget. I think it was $13.2 million just last fall to make adjustments in the sheriff's pay for the deputies. So there has been no evidence, and no one on this board has ever made any kind of statement or taken any action to underfund or defund the sheriff. That's not accurate. Another issue is I've heard a lot of people say, well, why don't you use the COVID funding to offset the budget increase? We are not allowed to do that. Federal law says you cannot use ARPA funding to reduce taxes. So that we are using it in other ways for one-time expenses, but we cannot do it that way, even if we want to, we can't do it that way.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We were courteous when you commented. Can you provide that courtesy to the members of the commission? Thank you very much.
And finally,
Thank you all.
I want to just address, I've heard a lot of people talk about the reserves as if that's just a slush fund. Half of the reserves are already committed for funding things like our new Nelson wastewater facility. Now, I don't know about you, I've said this a lot of times, I don't want to have an outhouse in the back of my yard. I'm glad that we are investing in our wastewater infrastructure. The rest of that we have used, for example, we used money out of the reserves to help pay for those increases in the sheriff's department. So that's what those reserves are in there for. It's not just a slush fund. It's used for when there are real needs that come up or when unexpected issues like workforce issues come up. So I appreciate the opportunity to clarify some of that information because I would not want people to be making decisions based on misinformation.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Hanslick. Other commissioners? Commissioner Allenbrand?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a couple of comments to make. One, Robin, or Ms. Symes, would you mind going through what is in that reserve fund? Because there seems to be a lot of miscommunication and misinformation about what's in those funds. So they're not allocated just to use as a slush fund.
As I mentioned before, we separate them by funding sources. So you have your general tax supported, and that does include the general fund, which is about $220 million. However, included that could be grant reserves, fee reserves, also, again, reserves that we need for our AAA bond rating, again, so that we can save taxpayer money and get lower interest rates. The other are county operations, such as public works, developmental supports. Again, those are outside funds. They're heavily grant funded, and so there is fluctuation in those grants, and so that's why those reserves are there as well to help out with drops in that revenue source. There are restricted funds such as 911, sheriff forfeited property, DA forfeited property, weapons licensure, some of those outside funds, they get separate revenue, not tax supported. It may be fees, it may be collecting fraud money or whatever it may be from the sheriff's department. So those come in and those are restricted. They are not allowed to be used for county general operations. There's also separate taxing district, parks and library. Again, once those are taxed within there, we're not allowed to use them. And then wastewater as a utility. There's very specific reserves that we need for that utility, again, as there are fluctuations. And obviously to help with our infrastructure to maintain it within the county, those are there.
Thank you for explaining that, because I think there is some miscommunication about those funds. I also, as I look through this budget, someone spoke about mental health, and I am a big supportive of mental health. And I look at Commission on Aging, I look at the support that we gave to the sheriff's deputies and their pay step plan and budgeting those needs. I look at what we've done trying to support homeless, JCDS, the workforce, and some of those one-time monies that fit those perimeters and guidelines. We give that money to help them. I also know that there was a step plan put in place for all the employees, not just the executive employees, so it went all the way down to entry-level employees. And I know that because I've received emails from those employees thanking us for those pay step increases. So it makes it very difficult to set up here and figure out what do we cut? I mean, so mental health, the sheriff's department, and I have never voted to defund the sheriff's department. I have voted for all pay for those deputies, and I will continue to do that. I will continue to thank them for their work that they've done You know, they were out there at the airport, you know, supporting the airport with that event going on. They are in Edgerton, they're in Gardner, which I know that's a separate contract, but I've not voted, and for some reason, that just seems to be that we're defrauding the sheriff's department. So that is not true. And I have sat here, and I will continue to sit here to support the Commission on Aging and to come up with a plan, and I'm hoping that that's something that we can look at next year to figure out a freeze for the seniors that live here.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
For this,
Thank you all very much. Thank you very much.
No, I-
Let her talk. Commissioner Allenbrand, you have the
thank you,
floor.
thank you, Mr. Chair. So that is something that I will continue to work on and that I have said that I would, and I will continue to do that. So, you know, I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate people coming here to speak. I really wish when we did the budget hearings and we had evening meetings, some of the commissioners didn't even attend those. So I really would have hoped that we would have had more people in attendance at those meetings. And the people that did attend, it was great being able to talk to them and explain the process. So again, I appreciate being able to speak, and I really appreciate everybody that came to spoke here, and also the letters that I've received from other constituents as well. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things, if I could. I'd like to offer some perspective. When I first came on the commission, the first 2 or 3 years, we literally had, Cal, we had no one in the audience, maybe a couple of staffers in case questions came up. I mean, no one. Yeah, about 14, 15, we'd have 3 or 4, mostly those interests that were looking for grants and support. Just very few, very few. And then COVID hit, and, well, COVID hit, okay. So I know there's a lot of energy in the room, for and against, bad and good, positive and negative, but I will tell you, this is great. I am very much appreciative of you being here.
Yay for you guys.
Okay, you know, to express yourself and understand to a much higher level of what the commission does. The largest local government in the state. Okay, I mean, it's a big deal and has been for years. I have a few other things I'd like to share, though. We are not voting on the budget tonight. We're just voting on revenue neutral. A decision as to whether to go there or not go there. The budget vote will be a week from Thursday.
August 31st, yes.
August 31st. So we will have a discussion about different things that we can do with the budget or propose doing with the budget, the mill levy, various programmatic efforts. So I'm not going to get into that tonight, okay? There have been a couple of comments, fair comments, but I just wanted to let you know that this is not the final decision, the final opportunity to make the argument. It is the only night meeting, though. You're absolutely right there. Now, there have been some questions or concerns about misinformation and misstatements. And, you know, I would tell you that's probably correct. But for the most part, I would say, from my perspective, those observations have been on point. Now, is it 10% versus 5% or $1 million versus $5 million? We can debate that. But the issue is the cost of government. And I have always run and always maintained that unless you're getting value out of your tax dollar, then it's not worth supporting. And I have to be able to demonstrate to you that if we are going to spend this dollar or increase this other dollar, I have to be able to prove to you that there is a return on investment. And I'll take the sheriff, for example. And I say this respectfully, Cal and the sheriff and I have had this conversation. I make this kind of joke. He runs the largest mental health facility in the state, okay? We call it a jail, but it's a mental health facility. Now, I would like to put him out of business in terms of the jail. I would like to see that responsibility go to next to zero. Now, there are bad people that need to be in jail, but so many of them are in there, Sheriff, if you agree, because of mental health issues, drug-related issues related to homelessness, and it costs, and this number fluctuates a little bit, but Cal, last I heard, was about $169 a day to keep someone in jail, okay? And that's pretty expensive. Well, for many of those individuals who need mental health support, it's about $39 a day, $29 to $39 a day. So I'd rather put more money into mental health so Cal can give search warrants, can make traffic stops, can jump all over fentanyl and all that bad stuff so that the jails have truly bad people in it. So that's the kind of decisions and the information that we have to try to wrestle with, because we can't take anything away from the sheriff, because the reality is fentanyl crime is real. And until we develop that infrastructure for mental health and support services, it would be a disaster. Sheriff, is that fair? Well, I'm not the chair, but the point is we have to be driven by the value proposition. And I will tell you that since I've been on the commission, there has been some improvement in how we do that in county government. But there's a long way for us to go. One area in particular that has really attempted to demonstrate the value proposition is mental health. And I give Tim DeWeese and his deputy Tanner Fortney a lot of credit for changing that culture and bringing in the value of what mental health services can produce, because we keep them out of jail, keep that cost down. We transfer that cost and allow for the better use of that resource. We can do a lot more and a lot better in a lot of different areas. And consequently, because we have much more work to do, that value proposition, in my opinion, has not been met, and it is improving, but since it has not been met, I cannot support a change in the revenue neutral calculation, and my vote will reflect that.
Commissioner Ashcraft, I definitely can appreciate that. And you and I have had some great conversations, and I really hope those conversations will continue about the value proposition of what the county provides. And I appreciate that you are always incredibly diligent about asking the question about what's the key performance indicators for various programs, as well as what is the return on investment for the investments that we choose to make within the budget, whether that's in public safety, whether that's in infrastructure, which again is the vast majority of our budget is infrastructure and public safety. I believe it was Galen Van Horn that said that's what she wants prioritized. That's what we're prioritizing here. Now, we might not always agree upon how we measure that return on investment, but I believe that we always should look at that, and I feel like we do. And I want to thank Ms. Symes and the entire team that has put together this budget, and for the voluminous conversations that we've already had and that we'll continue to have before August 31st when this budget comes for a vote. Because you'll see that it is not a simple document. It is a very complex document for a $1.8 billion organization. And that doesn't mean that we, as a board, have $1.8 billion just to spend however we want. It is much more complicated, and there is so much service that is provided by this county that our residents have said that they value. And while many of you in the room will disagree with me, and many of you didn't vote for me, and that's fine, I will always welcome the opportunity to talk about how I value the programs within the budget and why I feel they should be funded. Now, I understand and hear from all of you, or many of you at least, that have said that inflation's had an impact on you. Absolutely, I get that. The county is not immune from inflation as well. The services that we provide, the goods that we purchase to be able to provide to the most vulnerable in our community, those commodities have increased as well. So we reflect that within the budget, recognizing that we must balance the revenues and the desired quality of service within the Johnson County and how people have said they want to be provided service by Johnson County, whether it be in public safety, which this budget definitely increases the budget for public safety. 10 new positions for the sheriff and the Blue Coats. I appreciate the Blue Coats. They've done a good job tonight. I appreciate them at every council or commission meeting that we have. And it's an innovative way to save a little bit of money, and I appreciate the ability we have to do that. More folks at the district attorney's office, an increase in MedAct. That's something that the people of Johnson County, within their surveys, and from what I am hearing from Johnson County residents, want prioritized. We are prioritizing MedAct within this budget, and I think we should continue to do so. Now, we also made it a keen priority within this budget to address the workforce challenges that the county faces. If you talk to any industry right now, you will hear that keeping a dedicated workforce is a challenge. We are not immune from that in the county. And so finally recognizing what a median level is in various departments, we wanted to make sure that we are keeping the institutional knowledge that we have as opposed to churning and burning people every few years, which provides a lower level of service to the people of Johnson County. So that's what we want to prioritize. Now, I appreciate that folks want a revenue neutral. To me, I do not feel that, given the challenges that we face, that the revenue neutral is realistic. However, that doesn't mean that we won't try to continue to innovate to be accountable for the dollars that we spend. If you want to discuss a particular part of the budget or a particular department and how we are budgeting that department, there are various department heads that will meet with you. There are commissioners that will meet with you to be able to discuss those things and to show you directly what we are spending, how we are spending it, and what level of service that is provided to you. I think this budget is very clear that this represents the services that the people of Johnson County have asked me for as a commissioner. And I can stand and discuss, we won't always agree, but I can discuss each of these departments and why it is funded in the way it is. And we can continue as a board to have policy level conversations about whether or not certain services are what the people of Johnson County want. And that's our duty as a board to have those policy level discussions. And so we can always and will continue to do that. So with that, I believe everyone's at least had one opportunity to speak. And so we will take a first motion, Commissioner Hanslick.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm glad to make a motion. I move to approve and adopt resolution number 074-23, authorizing a levy of property taxes in support of the budget for the Johnson County Taxing District for the FY 2024 budget year that requires a property tax rate exceeding the revenue neutral rate of 15.960 mils.
I'll second that. Okay. And any other, not seeing other questions or comments on this, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
No.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
No.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Kell.
Aye, I have 5 votes in favor and 2 against. Is that consistent with your count?
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you, Debbie. Appreciate it very much. Commissioner Hanslick.
Yes, I have another motion.
Go ahead.
I move to approve and adopt resolution number 075-23, authorizing a levy of property taxes in support of the budget for the Johnson County Library Taxing District for the FY 2024 budget year that requires a property tax rate exceeding the revenue-neutral rate of 3.445 mils.
Myers, second.
Moved by Commissioner Hanslick, seconded by Commissioner Myers. Seeing no further comments, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
No.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
No.
Commissioner Allenbrand. And Chairman Kelly.
Aye. I have 5 votes in favor and 2 against. Is that consistent with your count?
That's correct.
Very good. A third motion, Commissioner Hanslick?
And third is I move to approve and adopt resolution number 076-23, authorizing a levy of property taxes in support of the budget for the Johnson County Park and Recreation Taxing District for the FY 2024 budget year that requires a property tax rate exceeding the revenue-neutral rate of 2.713 mils.
Moved by Commissioner Hanslick, seconded by Commissioner Allenbrand. Seeing no further comment, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
No.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
No.
Commissioner Allenbrand. And Chairman Kelly.
Aye. I have 5 votes in favor and 2 against. Is that consistent with your count?
That's correct.
Okay. The resolution is passed. With that, I will now close the public hearing, and that concludes the items on our printed agenda. We're adjourned. Did everybody have a safe night? Thank you very much.